Let's go. Hello, everyone out there. This is Tanisha Steiger. I am the creator of Fathers and Finance. I'm here with three of the dads, as well as the co-creator of Mommies and Money. So we're doing a collaboration this evening, a collaboration of something that's very underspoken in our community. So let's get this party started. I wouldn't say a party, but this conversation started.
Right.
For sure.
Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Doing good. Doing good.
Awesome,
Glad to be back in action. Yeah, doing good.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So the topic is something that we really need to be focused on. We're in the middle of a pandemic. And one of the things that is happening is people are dying. And, you know, I've had people die in the middle of this pandemic, friends of mine. And from a standpoint as an insurance agent that has paid out claims before, to be honest, I was woefully surprised at how little I knew. I mean, I've had people pay out claims, you know. I've had people come to me and say, my son died, or my mom died, or my father died, and I helped them process the insurance and was able to help them go. And I never heard anything back other than a thank you. Thank you for being there for me. Thank you for helping me get this policy. I've seen cases where a gentleman forgot to change. So he had a policy for, 30 years. Just one policy, never updated it, but just one policy. He had his eldest daughter as the beneficiary. And she passed away 15 years prior. He never changed the beneficiaries. So the rest of his children had to file with his estate to get the money. And that took 2 or 3 months. So that's about as much as I knew. But unfortunately, one of our members, Tanisha Steiger, obviously the founder of Fathers and Finance and co-founder of Mommies and Money, unfortunately, you know, she's had death, a significant amount of death in our family recently. And it's a double-edged sword for Tanisha, because her family knows what she does for a living. And she has tried to warn those family members. And then they passed away. And then she's been on the receiving end of trying to get things straight. So Tanisha, why don't you kind of educate us about just to start, what happens when, like, literally you get the news somebody passes, what happens?
Well, it always starts with when and where they pass. So if, let's just say, like, when it comes to my mother, my mom passed away November 16th, 2019. Mind you, like, she was laying there dead in the hospital, and the first thing the nurse did was ask me who's going to come take the body. So everyone out there needs to know, like, no matter what is actually happening, the hospitals don't care. Like, the hospice doesn't care. The retirement home doesn't care. They just want to know, what do you have for this person, or for someone to come take this body? So while my father and my brother were grieving, I had to suck it up and had to find everything in order, find out where we're going to sit there and have the body be taken, call funeral homes. You know, this is where I really wish I had an Everest from my mom, but all these factors come into play. So it starts at the very beginning. As soon as you lose somebody, those are when the questions are going to start being asked before it even gets to any of the rough stuff. That's the hardest part, because you just had somebody just die. You can't even sit there and cry. You have to literally just take care of business right then and there. So that's where it starts.
That's rough, Tanisha. I'm telling you right now, if my mama passes, I'm in like, give me a minute, please. I don't, like, get off my back. My mother just passed. Leave me the hell alone.
You do feel that way. You definitely feel that way. And I mean, it's not like it was you could tell it wasn't intentional. It's just something that they had to do. But at the same time, though, we all know that death is business. So, you know, I like to look at it as if when I did had to sit there and become the rock in the family, like as if the matriarch just got passed down. It was strange, and I was cold and I was very numb. Trying to get information, trying to see, making sure that, like, did mom have a policy? Did, like, dad, what do I not know that I need to know? And from that start and going to having the funeral home pick up the body, that's when all the questions started to really start coming in. And I mean, you're going to have like one, I mean, yes, final expenses important because you want to be able to bury or cremate your loved one. But two, like, let's just say my mom, like, was the bread maker of the family and my dad didn't work, you know? So, like, you know, how were bills going to be paid? Like, her property that's in Tennessee, what's going to happen with the property taxes? What's going to happen with her bank accounts? What's going to happen with her IRA? What's going to happen with this? It was so much that happened. And in a little period of time, that's when I really got into the estate planning, and why it's detrimental for our community to sit there and really pay attention to what's going on. We don't have these conversations, and we have them way too late. And that's a big issue with us, that we're having these conversations too late. I understand that if you think that anyone is promised tomorrow, first of all, no one's God here. We have God-like tendencies, and we have God-like, you know, soul, and we walk in God, but like, we don't have the knowledge of knowing we're going to lose somebody the next day. You guys don't know if I don't wake up tomorrow, you know? So just having certain things in place just helps designate things and makes things a lot easier for a transition. Because
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned, because as we spoke about in our previous meetings, I have never personally experienced an immediate family member. Thank you, Lord, that I have not. You had mentioned having the concierge service. Can you explain kind of what that is? And, you know, when it comes to the first steps of somebody transitioning, like, what is it? What's the most important thing that people should know or have in place to make this easier on themselves so that they can go through the grieving process? Like, what is it that we can do to kind of take all the weight off of us so that we can, you know, have that time with our loved ones, have that time to process what exactly just happened? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I completely understand. And I mean, and the reason why I said Everest is because Everest is a great final expense that comes with a lot of bells and whistles, if you will. The main thing about it, the concierge service, is that you be able to plan out what you want to happen. So if something happened to me and you're my sister, you will call Everest up because you know I'll have a policy with them. They will send the money within 24 to 48 hours to make sure that it handles all the funeral costs. And then everything that I put into my Everest Tenzing or into my Tenzing or my I guess my list of wishes and wants for what I want for my funeral will already be in there. And then you just talk to this agent, and this agent will find a funeral home for you. They will find a good price for you. They just look at exactly what you have in there, and they pretty much do all that work for you, so you can have that time to grieve with your family and not have to worry about going to the funeral parlors, figuring out how much it's going to be, because that's how they pretty much have funeral parlors. That's how they gouge you. They price gouge you when it comes down to last minute things.
Okay, that's good right there, because you talk about last minute expenses, and that stuff can add up very quickly. So, and hence the reason why people do the GoFundMes, which is, you know, this is some great information so that we can prevent these GoFundMes, because you don't want to burden anybody else with your burden. You know what I mean? So to have a plan like this in place, I asked because I have the Everest concierge service, but I wanted everybody else to know specifically, you know, what it's about and how, you know, you can utilize a tool that like that for your final expenses. That's awesome though.
Yeah.
And it also helps with people who haven't even started a will yet.
Yeah.
So it actually gives you a will prep. So you'd be able to carry out your wishes. And because I tell people the will, okay. You guys remember when back in the day when we used to use maps, right? So
like the roll up maps, right? Like the
like
ones
the
you
one you
roll,
had to unfold and like you
yeah.
never fold it
the
back to
unfold,
where it should have
fold.
been. But like, so a will is like a map and a trust is like a GPS system. You're gonna get to that destination. Okay. So the map unfolds and you're trying to figure out which highway you have to get on,
Yeah.
which exit you have to take. You have to you go north, you go south, you go east, you go west.
Right.
So the will actually helps you direct it, but you're still gonna have some, how can I put this? You're still gonna have a couple of traffic jams along the way. Okay.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
The map
So-
puts you on the road, but it doesn't tell you what the traffic is. It doesn't give you the traffic.
You know, it just directs you to who gets what and how, but like it does not bypass the probate court situation. And that is something that a lot of us do not even know about. And most of us don't know that, you know, probate court is like a $1 to $2 billion a year industry. And it can exceed from months to years, like honestly.
Right.
So
So Tanisha, I kind of want to, you know, you mentioned some things, as you know, as a longtime insurance professional myself, I wanted to mention some things. You know, you just, one of the things you mentioned was when your mother passed, the questions that you asked, like, does she have a policy? And I can't tell you how many times I have visited a home and I just left a card. And then that person has passed away, and then somebody's called me and like, hey, does my mama have an insurance policy with you? Well, no. How is your mother? She just passed. All right. So, you know, that type of thing. So I can't tell you how many times I've been called, and that obviously means nobody has discussed, like as a parent, like I need to do a better job. Now, my children know I have insurance. They know that my wife is the primary beneficiary and that they're the secondary, but I have not gone into great detail about where my plan is. I have not gone into detail about who the company is. So these are things that I need to sit down and tell them about tonight, but they do know that they've got the plan, that I've got a plan and that they are beneficiaries. But some people haven't even had that conversation. Like, and I know, so I don't know how that situation was with you and your mother, but I know people in my family that's like, I don't want to talk about it because if I talk about it, that means I'm going to die soon. And I call that using the N word, you know, in stuff. I don't want to say that, but I just, that's what I call it because it doesn't make a lick of sense.
Oh, so
you know,
it's like, is it like Negro-ish?
Negro-ish, yes. Negro stuff. Negro stuff is what I want to call it. So other people go, I don't want them to know where my information is because I don't want them to kill me. And I know this seems ridiculous, but I have heard this on a million occasions and it drives me up the wall. And I'm like, why would you make somebody a beneficiary on a plan that you think would kill you? I don't understand that. It doesn't make any sense. But these are some of the things that we deal with. Then from the other standpoint, I don't want to ask my mother because I don't want to think about that. I've always loved my mother. I've always loved my father. I don't want to think about what happens if they die. So I'm just going to avoid it altogether. But just like you said, none of this is promised to us. So this literally is a needed conversation that must happen.
I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think my first memory was a funeral. Yeah, I still remember the whole outfit. I still remember exactly where I was on Crenshaw in Chicago. I know exactly where I was. I know exactly who held me. I know exactly who held me in their arms when I saw my grandfather in the casket. Like I still remember it very well, extremely well. Like why? And then all I understood was I understood the sadness, but I understood celebration of it. but I've been dealing, from my grandparents, from my great grandfather, my great grandmother, of course, my mother, my aunt, my uncles, some cousins, some really, really close friends. So death has been damn near everywhere in my life, right? So me being in this industry has shined a light, because once again, I know in our community, we're not, like you said, we're not having these conversations, but you need to have these conversations. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Stop sitting there thinking it's going to be like, oh, your child's going to end up killing you. That's not the point. You just make sure, like, hey, if something ever happens to me, you're going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
That's it. You don't need to sit there, and if you have to go into detail, the details have to go into whoever's going to be, who has to take that chance. But like, I didn't know, I knew my mom and my dad had a will. I knew they did. I know they didn't have a trust. So it was like, and let's just be fair, by the way, most Black folks have a policy that policy is not going to pay out for about 2 or 3 months, because you have to have a certified death certificate that has to be notarized. And they have to send that to the insurance company to prove that the fact that, like, and they're going to go and do an autopsy. So like, if you have an auntie who smoked cigarettes like mine did, and didn't sit there and tell the agent that she smoked cigarettes, and they found nicotine in her system, they're not going to pay out. So this is when being honest with your agent is very important. This is when it's like, when we educate our clients, and we educate them and just let them know, like, just be completely honest with us. Yeah. There's nothing we can, I can't violate any HIPAA laws, but I want to make sure that I get you covered the right way. And this is why, like, I think you said, Isaac, on Fathers and Finances, like probably like a month ago, it was a couple episodes ago, you're like, there's so many policies that go unfurnished, because people don't know where they're at. People don't know that they even have one. So people don't, like, some people lied on their policy, so people think it's a scam. It's not my fault to sit there and not know that if I know you smoke cigarettes, but you told an insurance agent you didn't, and they found nicotine in your system, then whose fault is it really? Because now we have to pay out of pocket over something that you actually been paying for. You've been paying for how long? And we don't get anything still, because you decided that they're taking it upon yourself to not tell anyone about one small thing, like one small thing.
Now, let me ask you this. So I know there's some laws, and I know in Georgia, when I passed the state exam, if somebody misrepresented themselves on the form, there used to be this 2-year clause. In other words, like, if you misstated your birthday by a month or even a year, and then they found out later, as long as it passed 2 years and you continued on, they kind of just wrote that off. Are you telling me for your auntie, now, does she live in Georgia?
No, at the time she was in Tennessee, in a hospital.
Tennessee. My only question is, was this a new policy? Because I thought that they had,
it was a new policy. It was a new. She never had life insurance, and she had life insurance through her job. And guess what? When her job let her go, so did the policy. The policy was also let go. So for everyone out there who thinks that their job is going to last them for the next 45 to 50 years, and something just happens, and it's COVID, furloughed happened to people. So don't think your insurance policy is going to follow you. It's not.
You definitely need something outside of work, for sure.
Absolutely.
So it's certain things. Stress about.
So let's move on a little further. What are some of the things that you ended up having to take care of? So I know you mentioned you started asking all of these questions. My mother's property, all of the bills, things of that nature. What, for example, were there medical bills that needed to be taken care of?
Still are being taken care of.
By your father?
It goes to my father. Yep.
What if this is the last living relative? And let's say you got 5 children. Let's say you got 5 children. The father dies. He's the last parent. Mother died already. Father dies. He has bills. Who gets those bills from the father?
If it goes that route, honestly, I think that's going to be up to probate.
So the probate can just pick somebody?
The probate is allowed to do whatever the hell they want to, as long as if you don't have anything like in place. Sorry, there's like a fly around me. So like the probate, how probate actually, like how it works like the state controls your assets, right? That's it. Point blank. You have no privacy. It's expensive. It's time consuming. You have no control. So when you think you have control over something, but you're dead, so you have everyone around you who's supposed to sit there and be like, oh, well, I'm her daughter. I'm her son. I'm her husband. I'm his wife. Or switch that, reverse that. You guys get that.
Yeah.
Those are things that we have to kind of start paying attention to. But if you don't have a power of attorney, if you don't have a health directive, like all these things just come into factors. Now, I don't know personally what comes down to it, or what comes down to the last, I think, if I'm not mistaken, my grandfather went in, my mom's father, my grandpa Esau went in for a triple bypass surgery. And when he died in that hospital, I think the medical bills went to my grandmother. And for my grandmother, I think it actually stopped with my grandmother. And I went after she passed, because she passed 7 months later. And then I think it went to, it couldn't find, Covell was still kind of underage. So my cousin was, and he had a Berry last name. So it couldn't go to my mom just yet, because my mom had to prove who she was. But it didn't go to any of the, I don't think it went to any of the kids, because my mom, I think what my mom did with the money, she put some of the money towards it. Like she used his insurance, his Medicare at the time. And then she also used some of the insurance policies. So she paid off most of his medical bills before we even knew about it. So I don't know who it will go to after that. Like if it's going to keep going until there's no air left.
Right. Now, you helped me with a client of mine not too long ago. You gave her some information. This client of mine actually is a model client of mine. When I say model client,
She's fancy.
So what?
So she fancy. She a model.
Yeah, she's fancy.
She's like the Tyra Banks of everything.
That's right. But this client of mine, she's one of 8 children. And she reached out to me some years ago to take care of her parents. And I think you educated me that there was a form that needed, like, the parents put all of the property into one child's name. And so you wanted to help me understand what that form was. What is the form? So, and the reason I'm asking this is because obviously we don't want to pass on debt and other things like that to our children. We just want to pass on a house, land, property, things of that nature. So he put all of his property into his daughter's, one of the eldest daughter's names. Mm-hmm. And you wanted to make sure that there was a certain deed that it was put on. What was that? What was that?
That was what I was talking to your client about. Like, so when it comes to property and when it comes to housing, all right, there's deeds. So if your name is not on the deed, you're going to have to prove who you are, right? But her name was transferred. I mean, he put everything in her name. So if anything happened to him, nothing's going to happen until something happens to her. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's what that was a one good thing. And you could do that. But at the same time, though, like now you have to sit there and take on the responsibilities of what property taxes were paid, what's actually being done, is everything paid off? If the house is paid off, that's perfectly fine. What needs to be, like, those are discussions you really have with your own family. But like after my mom, I think me and my dad had a conversation about the house that we're in. And he put me on the deed to the house. So my name is also on the deed to the house. So if anything happens to him, I'm on the deed to the house. So I could still pay them, because the mortgage company doesn't matter. Honestly, I'm not going to stay out loud, and this is probably against the law, but it's a check for them. Okay. Right. Like as long as you pay, they don't care how it gets paid. Sure. But ownership is completely different. Right. Because if he put her on the mortgage and not on the deed, she would be responsible for the mortgage. She might have to refinance the house. That's a lot of things that go into that. But the one thing he did do was transfer everything to her. Now, not in my opinion, for what I've heard from her, she won't have to go to probate court because everything's for that part of their life. But when it comes down to some other things like the bank accounts and everything, you have to have a payer. It's called a payer of death, POD. It's like a beneficiary. So somebody's on your account, like Laura's married. You're married. You guys are all married. So okay, whatever. Your spouse is the POD on your account. That means if something happens to you, like you don't have to sit there and go. Like you're going to go to probate, and be like, "This is who I am." But at the same time, the bank will be like, "Okay, well, we can give you the money, or we can sit there and put you all the money into your account because you're already on it." And that's a lot of mistakes a lot of us make. We don't put the significant others or the kids or some type of beneficiary on our bank accounts or our tax deferred accounts or even tax advantage accounts. So it's very important. And even for people out there who do cryptocurrency, like you guys found out about that one guy who had $160 million and no one knew his password.
Terrible.
I bet you put it in a will, somebody gonna figure it out. You know what I'm saying? So like it's a lot of back and forth, and it's a very ugly process. Very ugly process. But like I said, you just have to make sure you have to have certain things. Like I told your client, just go back and find out the land that they had, that your father had in a certain state. Now you got to go to your cousins. You got to go to his family members who live in that city and make sure that something's not going on in the local paper, because they will try to get you. They'll take the land right underneath you without you even knowing.
Now explain that. Explain that. Go into detail on that.
Okay, so if the city of Alpharetta, I had like 140 acres of land, and I did not have any names or beneficiaries onto it. What will happen is that goes into probate. When it goes into probate, it's like a ding ding to people who want to sit there and buy land. So not only is it a ding ding, but it goes into the newspapers. It goes into like literally it's an ad. Like
It's an
you have to claim it. Like if you know about this 140 acres of land in Alpharetta, and you know, like I mean, and it gives you all the like the phone. It literally, you have to call the number. You have to tell them who you are. You have to go back into probate court, prove who you are, and how you're related, for them to be able to give you what you deserve.
That sounds like a grueling process. How do you bypass that? How do you, I mean, like a lot of people say, oh, I have my will, I have, you know, this, that, and the other in place, but that doesn't necessarily protect you from probate court, right?
Right.
So like, what do they need to have in place to protect them from having to go through probate court, since you know, a lot of people, especially celebrities, we're finding out are dying and they don't have anything in place, and their family members are fighting.
You have all the money in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
You have all the money in the world. Who do you tell me your accountant did sit there and put you on?
Right.
Okay, yeah, I get it. I feel you, Laura.
Don't be having their best interests.
Like, but again, that goes back into a lot of different conversations I think that we had on Mommies and Money and Fathers of Finance before. A lot of these managers and accountants and CPAs don't have your best interest at heart. They just want to sit there and they want to get paid, you know? So that's the difference between us being agents and them being agents, you know? So, Laura, to answer your question, so a will, like I said, probate court is required and it's public. Remember I said it's not private, it's public. Yeah. So anything that you had that was a big asset and there's no name on it, it's in probate court. And it's only effective, like your will is only effective at death. You can have a living trust. A living trust will have avoids probate court. It's very private, and it actually has incapacity management. So what that means is you have somebody literally who already managed everything that you needed, that you had in that will. They put in the trust and make sure it was locked in for you. Like the one I have for my dad is in this. See, it's pretty thick. But this is all literally pretty much his will, his last testament, his power of attorney, his health proxy, which is, I mean, everything that you need or everything that I will need, and my family will need. So when everything happened, I just made sure that everything was just taken care of. If something would happen to my dad, because I don't want to sit there. Unfortunately, we all know there's a lot of Black folks out there who family might have had land, but I refuse to give up something that my great grandparents and my ancestors worked hard for in a time that we weren't even counted as human beings.
Right. And still ain't counted as full human beings. But that's another topic.
That's another topic.
It is.
Crazy.
So yes, Laura. I mean, and there's a lot. There's look, it's not even fun. You guys know death is not fun. All right. Like it's just not fun. But what it comes down to what a trust will actually do for most families. So like I said, it avoids the probate court because it goes directly to the beneficiaries and makes sure that everybody gets what they want equally. Prevents court control of assets, provides like maximum privacy for your family. So no one would know that you have that 140 acres of land somewhere. You get,
Absolutely.
It keeps the assets in trust even after someone dies. So those assets can literally be handed down, hence generational wealth. See how that works. Prevents unintentional disinheriting, which means that there's always going to be an inheritance of when it comes down to a trust. It reduces or sometimes eliminates estate taxes, which is a big thing, depends on what state you live in. And it's a quick distribution of assets to all the beneficiaries on there. So that's a pretty big thing. And then what happens if somebody gets disabled? Like you have to start thinking about outside of that. Like what happens if you have somebody who has schizophrenic, or they have Alzheimer's, or they have something that's going to make them not mentally capable. And so, you got to make sure that they have the latest healthcare documents, which is like a living will. Do they have a durable power of attorney when it comes to healthcare, advanced healthcare directive? Do you have a period, like a durable power of attorney period? And just make sure your power of attorney is not just a fill in the blanks statutory form, and make sure they have a health document emergency card just in case, because that's one of the major things when it comes down to some family members that we don't know or we don't check on, and we kind of forget like what they might be going through, and to make sure that everything is actually going to be effective in ways. So,
that's a key thing that you mentioned about Alzheimer's, because I've got two friends that have parents that have Alzheimer's, and having that durable power of attorney. So when you got Alzheimer's and your parents' mental function obviously declines to the point that they can no longer adequately fend for themselves. Now, I've had to write policies on people that have, where the child had to say, okay, listen, I don't even know if my parent has a policy. When this dementia started, or Alzheimer's started, I didn't have this conversation. I didn't even think about it till it was like, yo, what in the world is going on? Do I have anything here? They obviously couldn't answer it. So that's an excellent point that you just made there. Making sure that you got the right power of attorney, making sure that you can get life insurance for that loved one.
Yes.
Make sure that you can transfer property into your name or any of those other things. I mean, because this is from just getting the power of attorney in and of itself is a process. And then, I mean, that getting power of attorney is a process. And then trying to take over your parents' information and their estate and all of that type of property, the land, making sure that they're very well taken care of. That's a whole nother thing that you got to deal with. So I hadn't even thought about it from that standpoint. I've written policies on people that where the child had the power of attorney and they didn't know whether the parent had life insurance on themselves or not. So that was an excellent point that you brought up about that. I mean, I hadn't even thought about that today.
Well, and I mean, most people, but again, Isaac, I will keep reiterating this until it's chiseled into everyone's head that it's important for us to start doing these things. Like it's important for us to start having these plans. Like you have to, even if you get a will, you have to change it every 10 years. So even if you don't, if you marry somebody and you don't like her in 10 years, guess what? You can take her out the will. Okay, you can change it. It's actually very changeable in every 10 years. So
That's
stop
what
sitting there
happened.
thinking,
That's
stop
what
thinking,
happened with John Singleton. He did a will in the early 90s. And I think at that point in time, he only had one daughter. And then, of course, he dies of a stroke, what, in 2019, was it, or 18, or whatever it was. And now he's got 6 children. I think a wife, or I can't remember who else. But now he's in probate court right now because his will was outdated.
Yeah.
right.
He had
But
a
that's what
will.
DMX is going through. Like you can't single one person out, because that's pretty much what a lot of us are going through. Like DMX is going through it. John Singleton, Prince, Michael. Well, I think Michael Jackson put everything in his mama name. So good job on that one. She deserved it, because Catherine went through some stuff with Joe Jackson. But like, like when it comes down to most, and I say most because in our community, I'm pretty sure if my stats are right, 34% of us have an estate plan.
That's not most.
And then on top of that being such a low number, with of course more people needing an estate plan. When you have some people that they have the estate plan, but got the will trust in place, but trust isn't funded. You know what I mean? The assets is, you have to put your assets in your trust. It's people, believe it or not, that the trust is not funded, and nothing will happen that you want to happen if your assets are not in your trust.
Okay.
So I do educate people about that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Your assets are pretty much anything that you bought. So there's no way you sit there and say it's not funded. If you have a trust, that locks everything in place, from life insurance to investments to everything. So you can't sit there and say it's funded. Huh?
Don't you? So don't you have
your
to?
Lawyer, a lawyer, your estate lawyer will always ask you. He or she is going to ask you what you have, and like what exactly what you have.
No, I get that. I guess my question is this. Let's say you get a trust. Like, so I end up educating people about trust at the hospital that I do contract work about. Mm-hmm. And the thing that they want to put in their trust is the job insurance that they have. So they're like, yo, I want to put this life insurance in there. And I said, you need to put other assets in there as well. Now, obviously, they go ahead, and I'm assuming that their estate attorney asked them about all of their assets. You can't be a good estate attorney if you don't ask them about their assets. But let's say 10 years passes and you gain some more stuff, and you never you gain a new house. You kept the old house, but you get a new house. You get a new insurance party, or you learn about an IUL and you add an IUL. If you don't let the estate attorney know, it's not in the estate. I mean, it's not in the trust, right? I mean, you got to let the trust person know.
You have to, whatever changes that come in your life, that's when it comes down to, you have to be able to, just like a will, you have to update it.
A lot of people forget to update the shit. That's why they got years down the road and wrong beneficiaries on their stuff. Yeah.
Right. And like, and most trusts, like, your assets, like your home, your bank accounts, your stocks, your bonds, and are put into the trust, and are like they're actually what they're administered for your benefit during your lifetime, but then they're transferred to your beneficiary when you die. The thing about it is, what people forget about is what the trust actually does. It helps leave a legacy and preserve your estate for the things that you worked your whole life for. So if the trust I have for my dad, I have a policy, and something happens to me, the beneficiary is a trust. The money will go into the trust, and no one can sit there and touch it until a certain age. So these are things that we have done, that I have made sure that is in place for my family. I don't know about everybody else's family, but if you look at how certain people have done it before, you kind of have to start like peep game, and then you have to just do it better. like you just have to you have to make sure that, one, you have everything together. Two, your whole reason of living is to make sure you have that legacy. That if you have a child that's going to carry your name, You want to make sure your kid has a better life than you. You want to make sure they have a better start than you. So just building a financial foundation correctly and estate planning goes into that protection piece. Just to give everybody a heads up. It doesn't just disappear just because you think like, oh, nothing's going to happen.
Right.
Oh, I can just make all this money. Oh, I'm going to be A-okay. I got like $789,000 in the bank and I'm going to be all right. And it's going to go directly to my kids. Like, obviously you realize that it's not directly going to do that. Like DMX is like, I love DMX. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I get it. But like his kids should have already like had that money. Like any royalty should have been directly to his kids. You know what I'm saying? So he should either put his kids on like what Nas did with his daughter, like his certain songs, like he put her as not an agent, but like as a writer or like part of it, right? As a production piece. So she will always keep collecting royalty checks off that one song. But like again, some people aren't thinking the right way. And I'm sitting there thinking that, and now as hardcore as DMX is, okay, no one was like, hey, bro, like, hey, like, psst.
Clearly,
like,
they just don't,
they don't like, didn't you just say, what's my name? Like, we got like, you know, say like, what you really want? Obviously, you know what I'm saying? So there's some things that we just need to get done and we just need to do better on as a community, period.
I would agree with that. As an example, I have an uncle who said to me, you know, I don't care what happens to my stuff when after I'm dead. I don't care what my family goes through. Like his kids have 4 kids. They're all adults now. And I mean, he's like, you know, in his 60s. And it's like, he's like, I don't care what happens to all my stuff, whatever, you know. And that's the mentality that we kind of have to like get away from and unlearn.
Yeah.
You know, because we should want to pass down a legacy. We should want to be able to take care of our families even in death. You know what I mean? Most people aren't even thinking about that. Like we discussed in our meeting, you know, how do we, I don't know, get that word out? How do we impact that mindset, you know, to start thinking about stuff like this? Because I'll tell you from my own personal experience, from my family members who have passed away, yeah, they had something in place as far as final expenses, but you know, me personally has never had to or knew anybody in the family that dealt with probate court, that dealt with, you know, seeing if they can get anything from the loved one, you know, from what they've accomplished in life because they didn't leave anything. So
or
you know what I mean?
They didn't put anything for anyone to leave, like or like for them to leave.
Yeah.
So like even if granddaddy had that old car, or you know, uncle had like his one Cadillac from 1961 still on like 22s or something like that back in the day, like that's just gonna go just to the state. Like he's gonna literally let the government take over everything. And that's how you kind of have to like put it, because granddaddy is 60 years old, so he's been through some stuff. Okay. Like he's been through some stuff. So you just be like, look, hey, bro, like you went through some movements. You've seen some things that we're now seeing again, because we're going backwards as of 2021.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to sit there and just keep whatever you have. We're just trying to keep that within the family. Like it doesn't matter who it goes to, but it's just write a piece of paper, write it down, get it notarized real quick. Like write it down, I'll get it notarized for you. Just have something, because you do not want Uncle Sam and his buddies just grabbing all your stuff. That's not fair.
Well, you know, not only is it that though, they don't care if they pass anything down. The person who is supposed to be the receiver doesn't care either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you said, they're going to just let the state take over. Okay, or whatever. I don't have to deal with it. Like they don't want it.
Yeah.
As long as it's like, if it's money, then sure. If it has some type of value, then yeah, it is worth fighting for. But everything else, nobody cares. Nobody wants that car from 50 years ago that's been sitting in the garage, you know.
How you know? There's a lot of old white guys out here still like they stunting out with car shows. Like
but that's what I'm saying. That's what they're thinking. Like if my grandmother passed away today, she's got a car that's sitting right in there most likely they're just gonna let it get taken because they don't want to have to deal with it. Right. That's another thing that we, that's another mindset that we kind of have to, combat, is just, do we care about what is being passed down to us? Do we care to pass down things? So I was just.
And Laura, I haven't spoke too much in this session. I just been listening to all the great information that Tanisha, Isaac, and Marcus and you have been speaking about. And I'm going to hurt a little bit of feelings today, just because I feel like there's a wall in our community and in most other communities as well. Those people that are out there that do not care. Get your shit together. The thing about it in life is, we're talking about things that matter, right? On this call, and we want to be able to reach our audience. Hello, YouTube family, power and peace to you. But we're all here very knowledgeable about financial assets and how to deal with those things. This is not something that you have to know. That's why we have an occupation for you to come to and get your things in line. By not caring, it's just like saying, hey, there's food over here, but you say you don't care to eat. You're gonna die one day. Your day, everybody has to check in on that day, right?
But when that,
At one time in their life, whether it's sooner or later, you're going to have to check in. And it's part of your life. If you know how your end of your life is going to be, it better focus you on how you want your life to be throughout your living time. So I'm not going to go back and forth and say how much you need it. We know you need it. You need the guidance. Don't be ashamed to come and ask and say, hey, I need knowledge on wills and trust. I don't have these things. If you heard something tonight and you don't have it and you have no idea about what we're talking about, you need to give us a call. You need to give Isaac a call. You need to give Tanisha a call. You need to give Marcus a call, or somebody that you trust that's in the financial industry. Understand what's going on with your money, your assets, and how you're gonna pass on, or if you don't want to pass anything on, how they're gonna put you in the ground. Whereas though somebody else doesn't have to do it for you. Don't be selfish and just say, oh well, I don't care, because you do care. You breathe today. If you didn't care, you'd jump off a bridge right now and get it over with. I know it's a bad thing to say, but I just want to be real with you. If you really didn't care, you'll hold your breath until you can't breathe no more.
Well, your mind is going to take over after you pass out, so they'll be breathing again.
Yeah. Then somebody tell somebody to cover my nose type deal. It's really, I try to be as professional as possible. Sometimes I get very, like Isaac said, I get very aggravated with the ignorance that's in our community. The selfishness. No. It's not passion. It's not passion for me. Passion is something that I put towards because I believe in it and I feel good about it. It's for me, I'm angry. I'm angry that there's knowledge out here, because I hear all different types of things. Like if somebody talked to you and I came to you and I had the suit on and I say, hey, you want to learn about Forex trading? You're in every call. You're trying to learn about the new thing that's out, the new hot thing that's out. But getting your life together is not important to you. That makes me angry. It makes me angry that I want to help and
you don't want to help.
Some people don't want to.
Yeah, that's
where it comes. That's what it comes down to me.
Or they think they just have the time. Like, okay, I'll deal with that later. I'll worry about that later.
And then another thing that I wanted to highlight on it also is it doesn't have to happen all at one time. You're not going to be able to digest all of this in one sitting. We're not going to
start
sit
somewhere.
Start somewhere.
Baby steps. Yeah, exactly. I like that. Yeah.
Start
You can lead
somewhere.
a horse to water, but you can't make him
can't make
drink.
him
And
drink.
that's,
That's
Come
right.
on.
I mean,
I
Well,
that's
think
then we have a lot
I
of
think
damn
it's
horses.
I think it's
so
about time
true.
for
Here
us to
just running
start.
wild.
It's about time for us to start grabbing the neck and forcing people to drink.
Wait, we gonna mandate it, right? Right.
Yes.
We're gonna
Right.
mandate the drinking.
Mandated.
Yes.
Mandated.
Mandate proper protection. Because just having life insurance, no, you have
You know the thing that I noticed amongst our people though, the more responsible people in our community are the women, because when I was out in the community,
shout out to you.
no, you know it's the truth, bro. Listen, I'd be out in the community,
Yeah.
To the women.
and I talk to women. All you got to do is ask a single mother, what happens to your loved ones if something happens to you? A woman is like, I got babies to take care of. I need to get this stuff in order. And that's really, I mean, if a woman has a child, she's going to be thinking about that. But men, I swear to God, the last time I quit putting so much effort in, especially young men, this brother saw me. He was a barber, and he was like, this is before COVID, of course. I'm in the barbershop talking, and he's like, yo, man, you sell insurance, right? It's like, yep. He says, my cousin just got shot, man. We've been raising money for 2 weeks. We just got him buried. I need to get a policy. I said, all right, what you got? He said, I make X number of dollars. I said, you don't need a lot of money. I told him a quote. He said, all right, come back next week. So I come back next week. He's like, oh yeah, I don't have the money this week. Come back next week. I said, all right. So I came back next week. He goes, N-word, why are you bothering me about this life insurance policy? I ain't got the money right now. Now, he approached me. His cousin died in a shooting. He was concerned that he could get shot because he affiliates with the same Negroes that his cousin was dealing with. He told me to come get him some insurance, and I got him some at a very, very under $20.
That's what Patrick was mad about. Or that's what Patrick's angry about.
Exactly.
Okay? That's what he's angry about.
Me and Patrick are both angry because I swear to God, when he told me that, I almost smacked him. I was like, you know what? I'm good. I came back here for you. I didn't come back here for me.
Right.
I'm protected. I came back here for you.
Right. And it's
because it's crazy. I really think that people in our community think other people care. They don't care. Why do you think that somebody else that's not your family members, and sometimes those family members don't care? It's up to you to understand and care about your life, care about your well-being. And that means not just your health, or health is very important too, because a lot of people don't care about that either, but your financial health, your mental health, your spiritual health. Care more about what's going on. It's out there. It's people that look like you and me that are doing the jobs that other communities they're taking care of their business. We wonder why things are the way they are, but we still don't take care of our business. And then it's like, oh, I'm gonna go to the club every weekend, and I'm gonna drink until I'm into my 40s, and that's still fun to me. But then I don't have anything set up, so like if something happens, I get ill, I'm asking the next, let me borrow $20 to the mall.
Go sleep.
It's ignorance at its highest level, and when I feel like you should be tired of it too. You know what I mean? You should be tired of seeing people that look like you struggle and do nothing to change it when there's everything out there for us to change it. And I hear this one saying a lot. They say, even though we know differently than that. It's a saying that say, well, Black people are just lazy. That's why a person from India could come over here, open 10 gas stations, and now they have $1 million in their family, and they're just lazy. I hate that saying, but when I enter this industry and I talk to people straight facts and show it to them on the paper, hey, this is what's going on. Hey, let me give you another example. This person over here that you know is doing the same thing. This is their bank. This is what their bank account looks like. Now, mind you, I'm not showing them their bank account, but if we go into hypotheticals,
Patrick.
yeah.
we're gonna have to do a whole nother collaboration.
Yeah.
We do have to do a part two.
It's
to this.
7:20. It's 7:23, and I didn't get a chance to
Did
talk.
I tell y'all we'd be done like 3 minutes ago?
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely don't let me talk about death. So we definitely gotta add an
We
extended
got okay. So everybody out there, on
Part two is
YouTube,
coming, guys.
like I apologize, but we will definitely be doing a part 2 of this because
Absolutely.
there's a lot more we need to discuss.
Can't
We'll go
y'all
into
feel
it.
the
We'll have Patrick
passion,
just started off first.
Yes.
So Patrick will
the
start off
anger?
with the passion behind
Yeah, I'm gonna close with this. When you do come see me, I'm going to hurt your feelings. Because
Well, listen, I'm not gonna hurt your feelings when you come to me.
and after I finish hurting them, maybe you can go see Marcus so he can smooth it out for you. But I'm only gonna give you the real truth. I want you to understand what's real because being nice to you does not work. Telling you
It does. Love
Gotta
always
get off.
Gotta get off.
We love y'all. Have
Gotta
a great
get off.
night.
Good night.
Well, part two is coming. We'll be posting. Holla
We'll
at
post
us.
you later. I'm Tanisha.
All right.
This is Laura. Oh, that's Laura. Marcus.
Marcus.
Passionate Patrick. And Papa Bear Isaac.
Passionate Patrick. I love it.
And we'll be coming back to you
I
guys.
got a new nickname.
Let us know what you think. Subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, and we will see
Definitely
you
hit the
guys soon.
subscribe.